Hello, I'm Mark Baer. This is YourTown television program. I'm with Stuart Chase, and Stuart is the new executive director of the Monterey Museum of Art. Welcome to town.
Thank you. Thanks for the greetings. We are delighted to be here in Monterey Peninsula. It's just fantastic. It's superb in every respect.
And so you have a long museum history. Let's give a little bit about that.
Sure. I've been in the museum field for many, many years. I grew up in Massachusetts, in central Massachusetts. I started my work first at Old Sturbridge Village as an interpreter, which was a great first job because you're dealing with the public, which is what museums are all about. We're there to serve the community, to provide information and insight on the arts and culture of various regions and of our history and of our art. From there, I went to school in Virginia, and I moved to Midland, Texas, where I became an assistant director. And ever since then, I've been in leadership roles in the museum field. So from there, we went to Corning, New York, where I was the director of the Rockwell Museum and Raynham Hall Museum in Long Island. And then settled eventually in the Berkshires of Western Massachusetts, a really delightful area near to where I grew up. My grandfather had a place there for many years, and I always enjoyed that space. And from there, I was recruited to Miami. So I moved to Monterey from Miami, from one end to another, from one side of the country to the other, and just really delighted to be here in Monterey to work on really providing the best programming and focus that we can for the Monterey Museum of Art.
So what changes do you see? I mean, what stamp do you want to put on things?
Well, I do believe, and part of the reason for me coming to Monterey is I believe in American regional art. It represents a region, and I want to think global but act local. Mm-hmm. So visitors and tourists and residents, they want to know what was produced in the area that they're visiting. Lots of people now, that's why the food industry and all the local native foods and local culture have become more and more important. So it's important for us at the museum to share the breadth and depth of the creativity of the region.
And regional art doesn't mean parochial art.
Not at all.
And that's where people get confused, I think.
That's exactly right. Most of these artists were trained historically in Europe, in New York, back east, trained around the world, and find this location as an inspiration and a source of creativity and settle down to produce and sell and demonstrate and show their works. And Monterey is one of those. There's, Woodstock, New York, there's Taos, New Mexico, there's Monterey. There's so many art colonies around the country with great history. One of the things I'd like to work towards is figuring out how do we connect all those, the tissue between all those places, because many artists transported themselves from one art center to another. For example, Jean Kloss was a well-known printmaker in Taos, New Mexico, but she spent some winters here in Monterey, and she's done these fabulous prints of the Monterey coastline. So I want to understand better about how those influences, so it goes back to the think globally, more broadly, but act local. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to do with the Monterey Museum of Art.
And you can be, I think the psychology of an area and the self-esteem of an area is very important because, again, when you're in a small place, you feel you don't feel like you're in the world, and it's very important to feel that you're into the world.
That's right.
And where you're at is a powerful place.
That's right.
And we have all that opportunity here.
Yeah, this is a place of drawing power. It draws people in. But I will say, from that drawing power, some artists have a struggle with that. They struggle with the natural beauty. They sometimes can't stop looking out the window to see what the landscape looks like. I can relate a story about Marsden Hartley, who went to Taos and Santa Fe in the early 20th century, and he was just so blown away by the landscape, he said he couldn't stay. He just couldn't do work there.
It's like living in a postcard.
Exactly. And so I'm sure that's a challenge with some people in Monterey, but the natural wonder is just absolutely stunning, and the way the weather and the light changes all the time, and the genre scenes, the scenes of everyday life here. So those are all things that should and could inspire people to stay here and create and share with the community.
So you have this community of extraordinary physical beauty around
Mm-hmm.
you, but you're also between LA, you're between San Francisco, you're between the Silicon Valley, and you're between the Salinas Valley.
That's correct.
Where so much interesting food technology and,
Yes.
So you have this, you're in this amazing space. So we're, like we were saying before the show. It's not all about plein air. It's not all about the landscape. There's real ideas percolating here, and what's amazing is that if you know somebody's here, you call them up. It's
a different scene.
In Miami, just because someone's in town, you wouldn't necessarily feel okay to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, you want to come over?"
That's correct.
But that's the luxury of this.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
what is so needed, again, in any place where art blossoms, especially if you want to be on the forefront of ideas, which I think is everybody intrinsically wants to do. It takes a museum. It takes vision, and it takes leadership, so that you can be at the center of a spoke around the wheel, so that works.
So you're absolutely correct. So one of my goals also is to bring the Monterey Museum of Art into the 21st century. The art that can be created using technology is awesome. It's growing. It's spreading. And here we are near one of the largest tech centers in the world. We need to take advantage of that. And certainly it has influences on artists. Artists are loving to use technology, whether it's a 3D printer, video projections. It's endless what can be done in the art field. And so we hope to start to produce some of those installations at the museum and share those with the public, because it's a big, bold world out there.
See, you're talking my language.
Exactly.
Because I believe we've hit the end of isms. I think progress in art is all open to you now.
That's right.
It's not about art moving forward. It's now art meeting technology. And the technology is going to redefine everything.
Exactly. And that's why we study art history, though, in the museum field generally,
Yes.
is because there's art of all times, but it's that history, the continuum, the thread that winds its way through all of it, and we need to be able to share that. But we need to bring it up to the current day. And that doesn't mean that everyone's abandoning technology. There's some artists, for example, who are going back to reproduce daguerreotypes, earlier photography techniques, but in a totally different, new, modern way. So they're using older technologies and addressing it to today's culture. And other artists are to use strictly modern technology. So what's the latest gizmo they can get their hands on and manipulate and learn how to play with here in Monterey?
And yet, the essentials, you have to know your history.
That's correct.
You have to know your technique. You have to know how A led to B, led to C, led to D, what has value. In other words, if you're an artist today, art history is open to you if you're taking the things that make sense for the now. You can never live in the past, but you need the past so much if you want to be in the future.
It's a continuum.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that we would love to do at the museum is, it's in early stages of me thinking about this. I've only been in the community for about a month now. Is I would like to do an artist in residency program to bring artists from around the globe, around the country, here to Monterey, and it would reflect on those issues that we were just speaking of, that technology. So what can people come here with their experiences and knowledge from elsewhere, bring to the community here, share with the art community, with the community at large, produce new works that we would display at the museum, perhaps do some public programming. So where does that, it goes back to the art centers that I was talking about. So where's that exchange of ideas globally? Monterey is certainly a desirable place to come and visit and to spend some time here. And they could also become terrific ambassadors for us that go out and spread the good word about what's possible here in the Monterey Peninsula and in California.
So before I want to just make sure we get this in before we move on, but who shot Monterey Pop and the photographers? I'll let you describe this, and then we can move on.
Yeah,
let's get our business done here.
We have this fantastic opportunity. It's almost 50 years later that the Monterey Pop Festival was held here in Monterey for the first time, and we're producing an exhibition that opens on Friday evening, June 2nd. It runs to September 18th, with 7 of the great photographers that took photographs of the Monterey Pop Festival. Janis Joplin. It goes on and on. They're all there. They're beautiful black and white and color images. And there's a great interactive stations where you can hear recordings of the artists and their experiences when they first came to Monterey. There's one that was a young teenager from Monterey who took photographs, got a backstage pass, and was able to take photographs. Well-known photographers established today. But it's a great opportunity to reminisce. And so there's that history again. But this revival of the pop phase of our American culture, what was going on 50 years ago. So it's a great opportunity, and again, it's on view through September 18th at the Monterey Museum of Art.
And I just want to give a shout out here to my friend Tom O'Neill, who was there at the beginning and is doing as good a work now as he was doing then. And,
Exactly.
and that's very important to me, that people continue a life in art and continue to progress. And Tom has been an inspiration, I think, to many people for this.
He and others, they are the ones that made rock and roll, because rock and roll is a one-time experience. It's auditory, it's an experience of a particular place, but the photographers spread the word around the world about what these artists were creating and how they're playing their music. So it's a great opportunity to delve into some history, but think about what's going on today in the pop world. And with the revival of the Monterey Pop Festival coming up in June, I think there's some great opportunities for programming. And you can all find this on montereyart.org on our website. It's all there, all the details.
So some questions that I have, because again, the great thing about this show is I get to ask what I want to know about.
That's good. I like that.
So here we have Food and Wine, which is a big event, Pebble Beach Food and Wine. We have the Concours d'Elegance, which is the biggest car show in the world. We have many great events. But I want to know what it was like to be in Miami for Art Basel, because we don't have that show here.
No, but you can go see that show.
Yeah, but what was Art Basel to be like?
It's an amazing exchange.
And you better maybe explain what it is a little bit.
Yeah, the Art Basel, it's called Art Basel, but it's about 27 or more art fairs in Miami, Florida. The first week in December, immediately after Thanksgiving, art galleries from around the globe come to Miami to share their works with the public. And things are for sale, but there are also opportunities to view artwork from all corners of the globe. Mostly contemporary, some modernism, but mostly contemporary works, things that are brand new. And it's a huge extravaganza of events and activities where the world comes to Miami, fly in on jets and commercial airliners and occupy the hotels, but exchange ideas about art. There's programming, parties, of course, because it is Miami. But it is the place to go and see the latest creations in the art world. It's a serious affair. Museums from around the world come in to look at works to acquire for their collections or to display in their museum galleries in the future. But it's a tremendous opportunity to see what's going on in the art world today. And Miami itself is really a vivid, wild, imaginative place. Street art, graffiti, the Latino culture, the Haitian culture. It's the sort of the Latin American capital based here in America. But it's a fantastic opportunity to see the art world in action in that early part of December. It's great.
So just getting back to regional museums, I've always felt that it's, and just for my own personal self, the need to know what's happening in the moment. And that's one of the hard things on a regional, unless you're going back and forth to New York or back and forth to Miami or back and forth to LA or in some sense even San Francisco, it's very hard to stay in the moment.
It is and it isn't. I think the digital world today
allows you.
Social media allows us such great access. I feel like I can be here in Monterey and know what's going on in the art world on a daily basis. However, I will say there's nothing better than seeing firsthand.
Yes.
It's one thing to look at an image on a screen, but it's a whole other when you experience it in the round or in a two-dimension, and you can experience it firsthand, whether it's an installation or a typical two-dimensional photograph or a painting. But those opportunities are growing to share, and the more people are allowed to take photographs and to share them globally, we know what's going on in the news media every day because of that. So the art world can learn and share from that. I have friends in Pakistan, South Africa, back east, all over the globe, that I can see what they're doing with their works on a regular basis. Would I like to go see it in person? Of course. And those options and availabilities are when you see art fairs or activities around the country, go and participate and go see, but also go to your local museum. You're going to see those works also.
But so now in your role, you can be the purveyor of that serious discussion.
That's right. That's correct.
And I think we need serious discussion here. It's too easy to get into your role and go into the vault and bring out the California Impressionists.
That's right.
And there you'll never be criticized for that.
No, you won't.
But it's just not enough.
No, it's not. And I appreciate you bringing this up because it's something that I'm going to work very hard with the Monterey Museum of Art to make sure that we're sharing the great broad variety and the riches of artistic expressions that we can share with the community. It's really, really important that we be of today, that we will always show our Monterey collection to the community, but it's really important that we share a big, broad picture.
Art matters, and it's a serious discussion.
Exactly.
And that's,
Absolutely.
And that's, again, that seems obvious, but that is not at all obvious. And then paint and your job is again to push against change.
That's correct. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I am not an iconoclast, but I do like change, and I want to be able to express what's going on around us and around the world. We live in a very fast-paced world. I operate what I call the 4 Bs in the museum field, and this is rather humorous to some, but we're business, we need to be bold, we need to be brisk because the world is moving faster and faster, and it's okay to be bodacious because we're in the humanities and we have to express and share what humankind is creating and sharing with the rest of the world. We need to do that right here in Monterey.
And a small place can be an important place.
Oh, absolutely.
But it takes a dedication. You have to say that here's what the goal is. You have to say it over and over, and you have to have people buy in and believe, and the self-esteem, and you have to build the self-esteem of an art community to feel that they're part of something.
Absolutely correct. I couldn't agree with you more. We'll get along perfect because we need to really express ourselves and not be afraid to share with the world and with our visitors. So it's really important that we bring in new ideas, expose the ideas that are here already, and share those in a mix-up. I'm an eclectic person also. I love the mix-up. So sharing those things can be really dynamic and exciting for the visitor. And it's more important it's about the visitor experience and the visitor service that we provide and that engagement with the public. What is it they really want to see and participate with
and they
when
don't
they come
know.
to the museum?
Again, they don't
They sometimes
know.
don't know. So we have to show them a little bit.
They don't.
But we also have ears and we want to
Yeah.
hear
Yeah.
and see what people want to do and experience at the museum.
Yeah.
That's another thing I would like to express to the community. As a new resident, I'm extremely open to dialogue, conversation, and accessible. Come visit me at the Monterey Museum of Art, send me an email, give me a call. I really want to hear and learn from all of you in the community, but I want to hear and exchange ideas so that we can create this really important American Art Center here in Monterey Peninsula.
Yeah, because you might as well try to be great.
Absolutely. You got nothing to lose.
You're never going to make people happy.
You got nothing to lose.
It's just intrinsic in the job that you're going to have opposition from one or opposition from the other.
That's correct.
But being great is a great goal. We're done. I'm Mark Baer. You're with Stuart Chase, the Monterey Museum of Art, and we're going to be back. Go visit.